regenerative health practitioner. I'm also a certified health coach and life coach and an iridologist. So for those of you who haven't heard about iridology, it is the study of the iris, and you can actually see your current state of health on so many different levels when you look at the eye. So we're not going to dive deep into this, but I just wanted to give you a sense of how I get to the root cause in the body, because that's what regenerative health is all about. Getting to the root cause, addressing it, and supporting the specific organs and glands that are really struggling. As you're coming in, if you don't mind muting yourself, that would be amazing, just so that we don't have any background sound. And so you'll see here, we have so many different areas of the eye that, like right in here is the colon. So you can see the different areas of the colon. I can see if there's tears in the gut lining in there. I can see if the pituitary is struggling or the pancreas is struggling or if the thyroid is weak. So there's so much that we can tell from the eye. So I usually pair this with symptomology. So we go through an intake session where I talk about what's going on through your period of life, whether you're in perimenopause, menopause, or pre or post, and then how we are going to address it. And then we talk about what you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis, what your lifestyle is, and what you might be willing to change in order to create a better experience in your day-to-day life. So let's dive on in. Let's talk a little bit about perimenopause. So this is when you start missing periods, you're in a hormonal downtick that can actually last up to 8 to 10 years, which is pretty crazy. You should not be in that downtick for that period of time, but that is what is quote unquote normal these days. So there's a lot of things that are very common, but not normal. And that's one of them. So your hormones start decreasing, especially estrogen and progesterone, which are created by the ovaries and the adrenals. And this should technically start in the late 40s, but a lot of women it's happening a lot earlier. We'll go into more of that in a little bit. But basically, estrogen and progesterone, you probably already know this, but I'm just going to go into it just in case you don't, control our menstruation cycle. And estrogen also influences the balance of your calcium levels and your cholesterol levels. So when we start going into perimenopause and menopause, we have to worry a little bit more about higher cholesterol. Usually osteopenia and osteoporosis is a concern, risk of heart attack and stroke. In perimenopause, the ovaries start to gradually produce less estrogen. And in the last 2 years of perimenopause, the estrogen drop starts accelerating in speed. And that's when you start to get amenorrhea. So your period starts getting less and less frequent. It's every 3 months or every 5 months, and all of a sudden it's gone. And during this time, you might notice like, oh, my hair is falling out, or I broke a bone more easily, or my skin isn't as vibrant. So this means that estrogen is starting to decline. But you can actually pull yourself out of perimenopause. It's been done time and time again. My mentor actually helped a woman escape menopause early. She was in her early 30s and she really wanted to have a baby. And she got her test done. Her period had stopped for 12 months. And she was like, what the heck, like I wanted to have babies and I'm in my early 30s. This shouldn't be a problem, but here I am. So she met with Carrie, and Carrie actually, it took them 12 months, but she pulled her out of menopause and she now has a baby. So that is possible. If you go through menopause early, you can turn it around. So let's talk about the actual shift. So once we're in menopause, it's 12 consecutive months without a period. So you have not bled at all for 12 months. And historically, like 40 plus years ago, we used to go through this in our 60s plus, so 60s to 70s even. There have been documented 70-year-old pregnancies, which, we don't want that, of course, but it is possible. And this is a good thing because the body thinks that it's young, like your endocrine system, your cells are acknowledging that you are still a young, vibrant being. So in the past 40 years, this has become more and more of a problem as far as our cellular age is becoming well, we'll go over that later, but our cellular age is declining rapidly. So let's talk a little bit about the HPA axis. Because during this time, during menopause, our estrogen is going to be dropping and spiking. So you're kind of on this little roller coaster Going into this, you're going to experience some hot flashes. Usually, these are very common symptoms. Again, like common, but it doesn't have to be normal. Sweating through the sheets, vaginal dryness, sex is uncomfortable. So when the estrogen is dropping like that, and that roller coaster is happening, the progesterone will be too low to balance the estrogen. And then we start having these mood swings. Like we're quick to tears, we're on edge, we're irritable, we're busting out in a sweat. There's more of an urgency to urinate sometimes, or we get insomnia. And this has to do with the pituitary, because the pituitary regulates the pineal and sleep cycles. And also, 80% of our melatonin is made in the gut. So this is where the gut-brain axis comes into play. Um, I think that's my next slide. Oh, no. So we'll talk about the gut-brain axis. I have a slide that's coming right up, but I want to ask you all right now, what do you think the average cellular age of a 30-year-old woman was in 2022? Dr. Zach Bush he has a way of testing cellular age, and he does it at his clinic. And he did a really big study, and he was assessing the cellular age of 30-year-old women. Just type in the chat, like, what do you think the cellular age of a 30-year-old woman is? Now, is it like 40, 50, 60, 70? What do we think? 42? Nice. Let's have a couple more guesses. 40, 40. I know, right? That's what you would think. 44. It is 70, ladies. 70. The average cellular age of a 30-year-old woman these days is 70 years old. And that is, I know, it's ridiculous. And that doesn't mean that everybody is that way, but this is the average right now. And this is because the amount of chemicals that are in our bodies and in our foods and what's going on with that. So again, we're going to talk more about that later. But this will affect the pituitary's ability to thrive in the body as well. So moving into the gut hormones, it has so much to do with how we can thrive in life and our hormonal balance. So we're coming quick to tears. We're going through menopause. We've got dry skin, dry eyes, dry mouth. This doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to be miserable. And part of this process is because of the acidic nature of estrogen. So it's essential for our body, but it also has to keep, like our body has to keep our blood at 7.4 pH no matter what. The cells can deviate a little bit, but we are constantly rebalancing and rebalancing and rebalancing. So this can cause a lot of issues as those estrogen spikes start to happen. And that's why we start having so many symptoms, because our body is in a state of acidosis on some level. So the average American is waking up and they're drinking a cup of coffee, which is a pH of 1 to 2, and eating breakfast of meat, eggs, and dairy, which are all a pH of 1 or 2. And we are full of acids. We're packed full of acids, and we're actually an alkaline species. So then the body starts borrowing calcium and cholesterol to put out this inflammation, these fires in the body. So this can be part of what's happening during menopause. There's too much acid in the system, and then those estrogen spikes start happening, and then all of a sudden the body's pushing heat out, because it doesn't know what to do with all these acids, because we are an alkaline species. Some other reasons why we can actually have these terrible symptoms in menopause is a struggle is micronutrient deficiency. This can have a huge effect on the body. Chemical toxicity again, gut injury, lymphatic congestion. So our lymph, our blood and our lymph are the two fluids in the body. And the lymphatic system is the system that carries all of our cellular waste out of the system. And it carries it to the kidneys to be eliminated. So when the kidneys are a little backed up, all of a sudden this lymphatic system can get clogged and clogged and clogged, and then the body can't keep up. And then we've got too much waste in the system they can't get out. And this creates a lack of ease and flow in the body, which can lead to dis-ease or unsavory symptoms. Also, GI, pituitary, adrenal, and thyroid injury can play a part in this. So the gut-brain axis, as I've been coming around to. So the gut-brain axis, the gut talks to the hypothalamus, which talks to the pituitary, which talks to the thyroid and the adrenals and the ovaries. So the pituitary is the master hormonal gland, and she gets to boss around all the other glands in the body. And she tells them what to do. She's like, ovaries, do more of this, thyroid, do more of that. So 9 out of 10 of our neurotransmitters actually go from the gut to the brain, not the other way around. So when we have gut injury, our hormones are way out of whack because 80% of them are made in the gut. 90% of our serotonin is made in the gut, 50% of our dopamine. So this is essential to hormonal health. And we can actually, this can affect early menopause, because the pituitary isn't getting the signals that it needs to, or it can make menopause more painful and more miserable because, again, the signals are not happening in the right way. And that means that there's going to be misregulation on some level. So what causes gut injury? Acidic foods, like a cup of coffee can start ripping apart the tight junctions in the gut lining. And I have been a religious coffee drinker for the majority of my life. I stopped when I went on my health journey. Now it's just like a special, special treat every once in a while because I do still love coffee. Smell of it, everything about it, I'll always be a coffee lover, but it does do great damage on the body. So it's something to just keep in mind. Everything in moderation as much as possible. Soda and alcohol also can rip up those tight junctions. Medications, if you were on the pill at any point in your life, this can also cause a lot of damage on the gut lining. Glyphosate, which I'm going to have a whole slide on this in a little bit, so we'll talk about it. It's a chemical that's sprayed all over our conventional foods, and other chemical pesticides can be really detrimental. And then the gut support, and endocrine disruptors, sorry. Endocrine disruptors are a whole assortment of different chemicals and things that can affect the body in many different ways. And we will have a slide on that in a little bit too. So I'll get into the nitty gritties of the endocrine disruptors. So some wonderful gut support that I live and die by are micronutrient support. For one, we can actually heal our guts with whole food micronutrients. We need to be flooding the system with actual whole foods, though, in order to do this. Aloe Digest is a product that I work with that's super soothing on the gut, cools everything down, starts repairing those tight junctions. The Biomedic is a supplement that I work with that removes the glyphosate, that neurotoxic chemical, out of your body, and removes C-reactive proteins as well, which are inflammatory markers in the system. Super Cleanser or other parasite cleansing supplements can be really helpful because as we build up lymphatic waste in the body, parasites come to clean up the mess, and then they can overpopulate and overpopulate and overpopulate. And this can cause a lot of imbalance in the body, and eventually it can lead to autoimmune disease or other disease, because there's so many beasties in the system that the body can't tell the difference between what your cells are and your tissues are and what a parasite is. So parasite cleansing is incredibly important. I like to do it a couple times a year just to rebalance if we're eating a regular American diet, especially. Ion Biome is a product by Dr. Zach Bush that I love. It's specifically designed to repair the tight junctions of the gut. He's amazing too. If you ever want to listen to his podcast, he talks all about gut health, cellular health, and beyond. And then I have some biohacks that I'll share with you in just a little bit. So moving forwards here, GI strengtheners. So the health of the GI really does matter during this time. We should be eliminating 2 to 3 times a day. That is a healthy daily elimination pattern. So if you are not, it's great to get some support down there. So artichoke leaf, cape aloe leaf, cascara sagrada bark, gentian root, marshmallow root, and slippery elm bark are my favorite GI strengtheners. There are more as well. There's a blend by Mira Herbals, it's a little expensive, but it's so effective. They're some of the most potent, well-crafted herbs on the earth. And they have it's called Bowel Strength, and it's got a whole bunch of herbs in there that's absolutely phenomenal. So your pH matters. As I was saying, we're an alkaline species. Our blood has to remain at 7.4 pH to stay alive. That cannot change, even though other areas of the body can shift a little bit. So we're always buffering this inflammation in the body with calcium, fat, cholesterol, or water. And we use these as fire extinguishers for inflammation. And the body is going to rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. So the more acids, the more eggs, the more meat, the more coffee that we drink, the more dairy that we love, the more fires that we're going to have to put out. So just keep that in mind. And like people's bodies respond in different ways, like those super, super skinny people that can eat things all day long and not gain a pound. They are stealing calcium from different areas of their body and utilizing it as a fire extinguisher. People who are overweight and they can't stop gaining weight, and they can't lose weight. They are utilizing fat. And this is generally like based on your genetics on some level. And there are ways, I like to say, genetics load the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger, so to speak. So there are ways to work around this too. Just because it's your genetics, that doesn't mean that you're screwed on any level. There's plenty of things we can do. Oh, whoops, I meant to go forward here. So let's talk a little bit more about an acidic body. So it causes an inflammatory state. Acids burn, inflame, and actually destroy tissues and cells. Hormones become out of balance. Cells start clumping together. So this creates malabsorption because if you can imagine these little cells, they start clumping together and there's cells on the inside, there's cells on the outside. And then the cells on the inside can no longer get what they need. They're no longer getting nutrients, and this leads to cellular death. And this can lead to strokes or things like that. Fats, minerals, and constituents begin bonding together, which creates stones in the liver, gallbladder, and kidneys. So an acidic body creates stones. And then congestion, excessive mucus formation is the root cause of 99% of illness. And this is, again, we're coming back to the lymphatic system being overloaded. It's too full. There's too much mucus and we can't get around it. And this, again, is going to increase the parasite load in the body. It's going to put a damper on the immune system. It's going to make everything a lot harder. So we have to shift the internal environment in the body in order to heal. And we have to put an ice pack in our body, so to speak. We're cooling it down to bring down the inflammation and so that we don't have these unsavory symptoms. You will also have worse cravings in an acidic body because our microbiome is out of whack. And the type of bacteria that's populated or overpopulated in our gut controls what we crave and what we desire. So sometimes, like I like to say, the first thing that you eat in the morning, if you're waking up and you're eating fresh fruit, that's starting a population. It's like activating a certain type of bacteria in your gut. So if you start with fruit, then you might have less worse cravings in the morning than if you start with a croissant or something like that, because you're feeding that candida, that bacteria that we don't want to be overgrowing. So let's talk a little bit about glyphosate. So what is it? It's a neurotoxic, water-soluble chemical that is labeled as an antibiotic and used as a weed and pest killer. It's Roundup, so that is a product by Monsanto. We spray like 4 billion tons of it a year annually. It is legal here in the United States, even though it is not in Europe, which I think is super messed up because you can go and eat at a McDonald's over there and get much higher quality food than what we get at McDonald's here, which I mean, I don't advise eating at McDonald's anyways, but still, I think that it's really unfortunate. So it blocks the absorption of our ability to absorb our essential amino acids, which are the building blocks of the body. So I like to say it's like taking the vowels out of the alphabet when we can't absorb our amino acids, because we have the essential ones that we need. And if we start taking, like if we took away other letters in the alphabet, like a Z or a T or an S even, like we'd be able to make out the words. When we start taking the vowels out, all of a sudden we can't make sense of anything, right? So that's what's happening to our body when we can't absorb those essential amino acids. It starts creating a thick goo on the inner intestinal wall lining that's called mucoid plaque. And this can be cleared out, but it's very difficult. You have to go into a deeper level of detox. And basically that the inner intestinal walls of the intestines have these little microvilli on there. They're delicate little hairs that soak up nutrients. So when this mucoid plaque sits on there, they can't soak up anything, you know? So that's how that absorption level is decreasing and decreasing. It also starts breaking down the gut lining within 30 minutes of consuming it, whether we're eating it, drinking it, breathing it. And because it's water soluble, it's in a lot, like the Mississippi River is 70% glyphosate right now. It's pretty disgusting. And if your neighbor is spraying glyphosate on their lawn as a weed killer, it could actually be in your tap water. So it can come in that way. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about with glyphosate, but the nutrient dense food company that I work with is the first company that's actually created a real solution to it. You can get up to 75% out of your body within 6 weeks of taking it. So that is pretty awesome. So let's talk about endocrine disruptors and xenoestrogens. So these are things that wreak havoc on our body. Basically, BPA is, I mean, it's that common thing in plastics, you know, that we don't want in our plastics. And petrochemicals are chemicals derived from petroleum or natural gas. They're an essential part of a chemical industry as the demand for, you know, all of these materials that we make keep growing. And they are made of, I mean, they make plenty of different products like plastics, medicines, cosmetics, furniture, appliances, electronics, solar power panels, and wind turbines. So there's a lot of things that petrochemicals go into, and these will actually disrupt our chemicals just by touching them. So it's hard to avoid them, but it's something to become aware about just because there's so many different things out there that if we start paying attention to, maybe we can just lower it down a little bit more and a little bit more. Paying attention to where your products come from, you know, a quality product, whether it's, you know, a plastic container or not, or just stop using plastic and use glass containers instead. That would be the safest way to go, you know. Parabens are lotions, makeup, shampoo. The petroleums are found in petroleum jelly, lip gloss, lipsticks, baby lotions, and they're not good for you. Phthalates. Phthalates are widely used in personal care products. So plastics, fragrances, they can interfere in hormones. They can affect fertility, development, and overall health. They are in saran wrap. They actually make plastics bendy. So like even a rubber ducky has phthalates in it, and your baby's putting that in its mouth, you know, and then it's an endocrine disruptor. So then that baby could actually be affected by that in its growth pattern. So these are just things to keep in mind. PG, PEG, PPG, these are all different titles for propylene glycol, which can be used as an antifreeze. It's also put in your hair products to make it nice and slippery and smooth. This is definitely bad for your hormonal system. I actually had a deep allergic reaction to propylene glycol. Um, I I have a tattoo on my back and I had just gotten it, and my partner at the time gave me a massage and he massaged in this oil onto my back. And 5 minutes later, I was covered in hives. And I've never had hives in my whole life. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And the second that I had that allergic reaction, all of a sudden I couldn't get rid of my hives. Even though I wasn't using, I was like, oh, it must have been that massage oil. But then it was like every single day I had hives. And I didn't realize what was going on until I looked at every single one of my personal care products. It was in my shampoo, it was in my face wash, it was in my hair conditioner, it was in my body lotion. I could not believe it. It was in everything. It was in my makeup. So as soon as I actually removed all of that and replaced it with other things, my hives went away. And my body had just become a little more sensitive to that because it soaked directly into my bloodstream. So these things can really affect us. And even if we're not having symptoms, they are still very detrimental on our bodies and our hormones. So pesticides in general, they're terrible for us, you know, sprayed on our agriculture. Eat organic whenever you can. Don't joke around with it. You know, like when we go out to eat, you know, I love going out to eat. I'm a foodie. I enjoy my food. But just be more conscious when you can, because it's definitely affecting your body on a deep hormonal level. Heavy metals. They're in a bunch of different stuff. It sucks. They are in chocolate bars these days, actually. There's lead, mercury, and cadmium being found in a lot of different chocolate bars. So that's something to watch out for. Buy high quality chocolate if you're eating chocolate because it can definitely uh, be something that you don't think about where it's catching up to you. You can limit exposure by avoiding products like old paint, contaminated water sources, which of course we're not sucking up contaminated water frequently, but just to keep it in mind. And certain seafood can be higher in mercury. And test your home if it was built before 1978, because lead-based paint was banned in residential properties around that time. So that could also be affecting you on some level. And then flame retardants, they're in our furniture, they're on our clothes, they're also endocrine disruptors. And phenylenediamine, that's just a mouthful, but it's in our permanent hair dye. So using really high quality hair dyes does matter if you dye your hair. And BHT is a lab-made chemical that's added to food and used as a preservative and a medicine. It's an antioxidant that can help treat genital herpes and AIDS, but there haven't been a lot of studies on that, and it has been linked to endocrine disruption. So just be cautious of that. So moving on here. Let's talk a little bit about intermittent fasting. This is a whole nother subject we could do a whole nother call on, but fasting can be really beneficial for women going through menopause if done in the proper way, but it must be done in the proper way in order to not put yourself into fight or flight, which is going to increase your cortisol levels and actually work against you. So intermittent fasting needs to be done in courses of 18 hours, no less. And if you have any level of adrenal fatigue that's substantial, I would say even any level, fasting is not going to be helpful for you because you are going to put your body into fight or flight pretty immediately. So ideally, if you're not in adrenal fatigue, this also should be done 2 days in a row to access your glycogen stores too if you're trying to lose weight. And ideally, you're just eating from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. or 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. So it can be a little intense. Intermittent fasting is not my favorite thing to do, but it can be a helpful tool during that transition. So I like to put it out there. Grazing. Grazing can also be really helpful, especially for weight loss, but you need to do it with whole foods only. This does not work if you're eating processed foods. But especially if you're on a regenerative protocol, we go into basically, I mean, if you're in the traditional way of things, you would go into a raw food protocol. I work a little differently now where you can do things on different levels with cooked foods as well, because we're adding in these super tools, these biohacks and things. But traditionally speaking, if you're on a raw food protocol, you could be eating every 2 hours or even every hour. Grazing can be really fun because you don't have to think about not eating, or deprivation on any level. You can just snack whenever you want to, but you're snacking on raw berries or melons or, fresh salads or seeds. Um, so it can be a fun way of going about things in a different fashion. I grazed for 5 months at one point, and it was an incredibly rewarding experience for me to go fully raw. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before. Um, Foods that balance hormones. So these foods are especially helpful no matter what. We're going to go into some specifics about different things in a second, but flax seeds, linseed, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds. I've heard a method of seed cycling that can be done that's really helpful for menopause. Day 1 through 15, you put flax seeds and pumpkin seeds on everything. And day 16 through 30, you put sesame seeds and sunflower seeds on everything. You don't have to put them on everything, but just make sure you're consuming them every day. And this can help to really balance things out because these are phytoestrogens. And these are things that, people are a little wary of before menopause, and then they continue to be wary of them. But during this time, phytoestrogens can be our best friend because what's happening? Estrogen is declining in the body. And what do we need? We need a little more estrogen. So instead of using like a chemical form or like a synthetic form of estrogen that mimics whatever's going on in our body, and our body can't actually recognize it in a proper way because it's a foreign substance coming into the system, we can use these natural foods to balance things out. And the body knows what to do with them. Also, sprouts, kale, spinach, microgreens, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, and carrots can be so helpful. Soybeans, tofu, tempeh, make sure these need to be 100% organic. You go wrong with tofu when you eat non-organic tofu, because it's going to have so many endocrine disruptors in there. And that is a common misconception of tofu, and why it's like demonized on some level, you know, in the hormonal system, is because, yes, if you eat tofu and you're out to eat at a sushi restaurant or something, you know, that's probably not organic tofu. And yes, it is going to mess up your hormones. But if you're eating organic, this can actually work with the body. It's a phytoestrogen, so it's going to balance out whatever it needs to balance out and help you. Chickpeas and lentils, tart cherries, berries, grapes, and kiwis, and melons are amazing for helping to balance hormones. I like to say fruits in the morning before anything else is the most helpful, because they digest so fast. And if you eat them on top of other foods, then they're not doing you as much good. And alkaline fruits can actually squeeze the acids out of your cells. So even like the citrus fruits, which we think are acidic, as soon as they enter the body, they become alkaline. They are alkalinity of 7. So especially grapes, like people have reverse stage 4 cancer with just eating grapes and taking herbal tinctures. So beautiful things are possible when we start leaning into our fruits first thing in the morning, or all day if you like it. But I would suggest adding in some whole food supplementation as well, if we're going on protocol like that. So these are some more phytoestrogens. I just wanted you to see the abundance of different options. I mean, we kept soy on here just because the other slide was not all phytoestrogens, but they were hormonal helpers. So apples, pomegranates, broccoli, wild yams, spinach, almonds, pistachios, mung beans, lentils, soy, split peas, barley, barley grass juice, quinoa, and wild rice is ideal for the rice there. Again, make sure if the grains are organic. That's really important, because grains are sprayed with so much glyphosate if not. Oh no, go forwards. Calcium. So our estrogen is declining, and this means that our calcium is going to be struggling on some level. So I like to just demonstrate here that it is possible to get your daily dose of calcium just from vegetables. So you can see here, or blackstrap molasses, 667 milligrams of calcium in there for a serving, which is amazing. So you can start putting together these different vegetables during the day and get a really good source of calcium in your body. You don't need dairy to do it. If you want some of these notes too, I can share them with you after class. Vitamin D. So this is another thing that we struggle with. I mean, throughout life, getting enough vitamin D in your body is a struggle. One thing that's super cool is that mushrooms, they actually, if you place them in the sunlight, they react just like us to the sun. They can soak up vitamin D. So if you put your mushrooms, even after they're picked, in the sun and then you eat them, you are going to get a higher level of vitamin D from them, which is super cool. And then fortified vegan milks, coconut, almond, and soy. And then again, organic whenever possible. Tofu absolutely needs to be organic, but you can get 27% of your daily value from 1 cup of tofu. And then I also work with a supplement called Zinc Aid. So it's got zinc, vitamin A, D, and E in it. So you could actually get all of your necessary vitamin D as well as zinc A and E in there, which is really helpful. All of those ingredients for this time, for this transitional time, to keep you in balance. So a tablespoon of ashwagandha a day during menopause will change your life. I would just do it. If you're not already doing it, it will help. It's an incredible endocrine balancer during this time. Make sure you're getting it from a good source. I like Mountain Rose Herbals. That's a great company to work with. They have a lot of really high quality wild crafted herbs that you can order online. White American ginseng is incredible, or any kind of ginseng. This is also a wonderful adrenal support, which we all need more of in our daily American lives. Chase tree berry, wild yam root is incredible for menopause and for the adrenals as well. Maca root, bee pollen, red clover, and chase tree berry. The herbs can really change everything. They make a huge difference. So triggers for worse symptoms here. So caffeine is, I mean, it's acidic, as we've talked about. It overstimulates the adrenals, and we really want to be nurturing them during this time. So coffee especially, it's a big no-no if we're trying to decrease symptoms. Um, Using white tea or green tea is a nice transitional tool, or using products that have coffee berry extract in it instead of the coffee bean, because coffee berry extract is actually much more alkaline and very gentle on the system. It'll still lift you up, but it's not going to acidify the body. Smoking, yes, we all know it's bad for you, but it's going to trigger your symptoms. Spicy food is also something I love, but not the best for you during this time. It's going to heat up the body, and we are trying to put the ice pack in, right? We're trying to cool off the system. Alcohol, again, love red wine. I love it, love it, love it. It's not doing you any favors right now. It's time to give it a break for a little while we rebalance the body, get those acids out so that we can start feeling better. And it's something that, yes, you can have again in the future, but right during this time, it's going to make your symptoms worse. And actually, tight clothing is terrible for your skin because your skin is a living, breathing organism. It's the largest organ outside of your myelin sheath. And your skin even has its own microbiome on it. So your gut has 750 trillion bacteria, and your skin is a one to that. So we are suffocating our biome of our skin when we wear tight clothes. And yes, like sometimes, wear some tight clothes, but generally speaking, we need to let the skin breathe. We should go to bed in like a nice flowy nightgown, and whenever we can during the day, wear looser clothing so that our skin can actually breathe. It's super helpful to incorporate dry brushing during this transition too, as you're going through menopause. You always want to brush towards the heart. So wherever you're brushing from, if you're brushing the lower part of the body, you're brushing up towards the heart. If you're brushing the upper part of the body, you're brushing down. If you're brushing over delicate areas, just go light. I like to do three brushes before I move on, and just long strokes, not little strokes. Um, and so all of these things are acidic, right? We want to start focusing on alkalizing to bring the heat down in the body. Some foods to avoid. These are big ones. Red meat, it's congesting in the body. A piece of red meat can take up to 72 hours to break down in the system. So think about a piece of red meat sitting on your countertop warm for 72 hours. It's gross. That's what it's doing the same thing inside of your body. And there's these parasites and things coming to try to clean it up and break it down and break it down. And then you can even get meat impacted on the inner colon walls, and it can just sit there. It can sit there for years if you don't cleanse. So that's something to keep in mind. Pork also is harder for the body to break down. Non-organic meat in general, just it's really bad for you. Dairy, super congesting on the system. I know, I love cheese. I'll always love cheese. I understand. I mean, it's physically addictive too. It's sending off all those dopamine triggers in our brain when we eat it, but it's not doing you any favors. It's congesting the system. It's stopping you from alkalizing. White breads, pastas, glutens, fried foods, MSG, processed sugars and fats, all those sweet treats that we love. And then these fake sweeteners are terrible for us, as well as white table sugar and high fructose corn syrup, which is actually proven to cause tumors and cancer. So sucralose is Splenda, not doing you any favors. It's can cause neurological damage, so can aspartame and saccharin. Aspartame there's been studies on like brain tumors happening when you drink a warm can of soda. Like it's terrible that this is the diet, mentality these days, and that these things are said to be good for us, because they definitely are not. They're hurting our bodies a whole lot. And I would always eat a regular sugar item before I would eat something with fake sugar in it. And diet products too, when we do like a fat-free something, okay, so they're taking out the fat of the item. What are they adding in? Generally fake sugar. That's what they're filling that fat with. So pay attention to those things whenever you can. So cleaning your body house, cleaning your temple. The best way to do it, I love to use regeneratively farmed foods that are incredibly nutrient dense to flood the system with micronutrients. But in addition to that, this is a great way to start. Fruits alone in the morning, first thing. Fresh, raw, whole foods in the afternoon, and a plant-based meal for dinner. And just keep in mind, this is temporary if you want it to be, but this is the best path to actually scrubbing your body clean and getting out those extra parasites, getting out those extra beasties, and rebalancing the hormones. The more raw you are willing to go, the faster you will actually regenerate your body. Because when we get our body into a fully alkaline state, that is when it can actually repair itself. It is designed to repair itself, it is designed to heal. But we have to give it the right support in order to do so. And we have to shift the internal environment in order to make that happen. So, cooked food can actually slow detox to a full halt. So when we're eating a plant-based meal for dinner and we're cooking our food, we are slowing that detox down that we started during the day. So if you did eat a raw meal for dinner, all of a sudden you're going to accelerate, you're going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. If anybody's interested in what that looks like as we move forwards, please let me know. We can have a nice little private conversation about it. So these are some of my tools for rapid transformation. I work with this nutrient dense food company. They make the most nutrient, highest caliber of foods in the world. They like one shake is about the nutrient equivalent of like 10 superfood salads. And I couldn't even eat 10 salads in a day, right? So you are literally flooding your body with all these nutrients. It becomes regenerative automatically because you're rapidly shifting the pH in your body. So this is the fastest way that I can help people get to where they want to be in a short period of time. They've also they have the biometric supplement, which gets that glyphosate toxicity, that neurotoxin out of your system. They have a plant-based protein that works deep in the body, so it helps to, I mean, rebuild. It's they're amino acids that directly soak into your cells within 23 minutes of taking them, and those are the building blocks for us to do whatever the body needs to do in there. And it's going to increase bone health and all of that jazz as well. And then there's a tart cherry juice that we take before bedtime that is it's incredibly tasty and it's super high in natural melatonin, which is going to create deep restful sleep and reduce inflammation in the body and also promote that kidney filtration so that we can drain. We have to open the drain, right? And get that lymphatic waste out. So these tools are really helpful. The Ultimate Lifestyle Transformation Program is set up as a 90-day cycle, generally speaking, and then people usually drop down to the Core 4 nutrition program unless you have something much deeper going on in your body. You could just do the nutrition program, but if you really want to see that rapid results, in 1 or 2 months, you could be having an entirely different experience of your body. So it does get to be pretty exciting when you start adding these things in. Biohacks that I work with. So if people are not willing to, or they really don't want to make the diet shifts, because I know it's challenging. I've done it myself. It's not easy, but it's worth it if you're willing. But there are ways to cheat, so to speak, or get the same kind of results in a fast way without making as many changes if you're willing to invest. LifeWave patches or stem cell activation patches, they activate 4,200 genes the second that you start putting the patch on your skin. So this is turning on these signals in the body. So anybody who has genetic issues, this could be really helpful for. They have a bunch of different patches, but I like their baseline stem cell activation patch called the X39. So it interacts with the heat waves of the body, reflects them back into the system to turn on that stem cell activation. So you could go and you could get like a stem cell shot for $5,000, or you could use these LifeWave patches and you get the same type of effect. The ASEA redox cell signaling supplements, this is phenomenal for deep chronic conditions because it's increasing cellular function by 31%, organ function as well. It increases the healing speed up to 10 times faster because it's turning on the communication pathways in the body. So basically, a lot of times our body is so congested that it can't communicate in the way that it needs to in order to send those signals to be like, hey, do this, do that. Like it's time to Like Sally needs help over here. Let's send the team to help her out, and like make repairs. But when we're so congested, we can't send those signals. So when we drink this redox cell signaling supplement, it's turning on that activation team where it's like, okay, we're gonna call Sally and be like, hey, we're bringing the team over here to make those repairs. And all of a sudden, you're calling the fire department and sending them all over the place, so to speak. And a redox cell signal is the type of cell that its function is as a search and destroy team. So it can go and get rid of bad cells, or it can repair the cells that need to be repaired. And that's what we need more than anything in our older age, because we have more and more cellular buildup, and those bad cells can regenerate too in a toxic body. Cell Defender is the last tool that I love to work with. It's a little tincture that's tasteless. It's designed to remove heavy metals, chemicals, and microplastics from the body. So that can be really beneficial, especially somebody coming off of medication, or something like that, or anybody who's been exposed to, any kind of toxic waste, or microplastics are in everything these days. So that's just generally helpful as well. So for an iridology analysis, this is something that I do by itself. So we can actually assess exactly what the root cause of what's going on in your body if you're curious about having this done. A general analysis, if I take a quick look at the eye, it's just 95 bucks, and then I'll write you a little description of what I see. For 195, I do a Zoom analysis. So we walk and talk through the eye together. We record it, so you have a copy of the meeting, and we can really discuss things as we go. And then for 275, I do a full written analysis. So I'm really marking up the eye. I'm going to print it out for you and write a full detailed description of what's going on in there and what we can do about it, and a suggested protocol. If you want to do an intake with me, it's not that much more. It's literally just 20 bucks more here. So 195 to 295. 195 is just for the verbal Zoom analysis, and 295 for the written analysis with the full intake. So you're getting an additional session with me where we dive into symptomology, what's going on in your body, what your lifestyle is like, what your budget is like, and how best we can address to get you to your highest state of health. So I do have a program that I'm launching right now specifically for you ladies who are struggling with menopause or perimenopause. It's called My Body, My Home. And this is a regenerative reset to create balance, ease, and harmony through this transition. So you can actually reclaim the joy of being in your body on a day-to-day basis through this time, because you don't have to struggle. It's going to be 4 months long. We're addressing the root cause. And you're going to get your full intake with an iris analysis, customized regenerative protocol. We will have weekly group educational coaching calls. So I'm going to dive into the nitty-gritty details of how we support the body to regenerate itself, what's going on at this particular time in your system, even more deeply. And then the tools, like the deep dives into these different tools, so you can really choose how you want to move forwards on a step-by-step way. And then we're going to have a Mighty Networks group where I will post a bunch of regenerative guides, resources, meal plans, recipes for you, so that you'll have all the tools you need to just tap in there at any point in time and grab what you need to grab, so that you can succeed. And then I am offering a biweekly 15 to 20-minute tracking and support session for each client separately. So that'll be a private session where we just talk about what's going on with you, and I can help you through any kind of resistance, or troubleshoot any problems that are coming up for you during the journey. So your regeneration protocol may include diet shifts, nutrient-dense foods, herbal supplements, heavy metal chemical removers, LifeWave patches, stem cell activation patches, and the ASEA redox signaling supplements. So your protocol prices, I have a budget price for $175 a month, or it could go up to $575. So this is based on your body's needs, but also your budget, because I really don't want anybody to be left out just because they can't quite afford it. And there's a lot we can do with just some basic tools and some diet shifts. If anybody is interested in what exactly that looks like, let's talk after the call. We can set up a little consultation. So I normally charge $300 a month for my group programs. I have a 72-hour special right now because you attended this call today. You can have it for $99 a month for the 4 months. So this is going to be for the full program, and then this wouldn't be with your protocol included, but this is for your time with me. So do we have any questions coming up? Because that was my presentation for you all. Let me know. You can come off mute or type in the chat if we have any questions right now. I'm going to be sending out a follow-up email too with some information on the group program and just thanking you for attending today. Yay, Beverly, I'm so glad that you loved it. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll talk to you soon, Beverly. Yeah, you're so welcome, Lucy. Thank you for coming. I'm going to stop the share now. And I'm going to stop. Okay, beautiful. So, I am a recording.